All right, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the one and only Wrestling Otaku channel. Of course, your personification of excellence on YouTube and YWC. We're the best reviews wrestling and your three-time YWC channel of the year. And I'm back here. It is now officially Tuesday, April the 15th, 2025. It's a little past midnight, so I figure I'd go ahead and do a little late night video here. So hope y'all have had a good weekend. Hope y'all have a good Monday. So the week has started out pretty decently for me. I got a day off tomorrow, so I can rest and relax. And as you can see on the screen there, I got some Apex. I was playing some Apex late night. I was thinking about doing a game stream. I might do that later. It all depends on how I feel. But I hope y'all are having a good one, and hope you guys have been enjoying the content that I've been providing here on the channel so far. I got more, so certainly some more videos on the books. Videos that I plan on doing. Hopefully, throughout the rest of this week, and you'll be seeing that here on the channel. But here tonight, I want to talk about something. I want to make this video. I've been thinking about doing this for a while since I heard a certain report last week. A pretty significant report in the world of wrestling. Certainly a lot of you will know what I'm referring to when I get to it. And so today I wanted to talk about a specific wrestler, one who I have personally been a fan of since I first saw him, since I first, was introduced to him wrestling way back in the old days of Ring of Honor, back in the, 2010, 2011 was when I first, got the chance to watch him wrestle. This was back when Ring of Honor was owned by Sinclair and they were airing the CW, if that whole syndicated, when they had the syndicated, shows, Ring of Honor TV on syndicated, programming, broadcasts, and stuff like that. And so ever since then, I've been a fan of this dude. Ever since then, I've seen his rise in the wrestling world and his rise as a talent, his rise as a wrestler. I've seen him, go from place to place. He went from Ring of Honor to NXT, then later to WWE, and I've really kind of watched this guy just climb the ranks, if you will, or attempt to climb the ranks, and kind of become one of the more established names in pro wrestling today. And, ever since, like I said, from the early days of me watching him on Ring of Honor on ROH TV, I became, really captivated by him. Great wrestler, great in-ring work. Also, he was a really good promo, really good on the mic. He was one of the most complete all-around wrestlers that I've seen in my time as being a wrestling fan. So today I'm going to be talking about one Kevin Owens, also known as Kevin Steen. So as most of you are aware, it came out recently. The report came out last week, sometime mid last week, that Kevin Owens is, unfortunately, he is dealing with a serious injury, or it was revealed that he was dealing with a serious injury, and he is going to have to take some time off. He's going to have to take significant time off. He's going to have to undergo surgery. And it's a pretty serious surgery from what the report's stating. It's a neck fusion surgery. Apparently he has, he's been having problems with his neck, which I believe, he's had problems with, I believe he's had problems with that in the years past, if I'm not mistaken. But it's a pretty big surgery. And the timetable for his return is pretty big. It's going to be a long while before you see Kevin Owens again, unfortunately. And when this was reported, it was a pretty big deal. Last week it was a pretty big deal. A lot of people were talking about it. Other content creators were talking about it. Neck fusion surgery is certainly, a big thing. Any injury involving your neck is going to be a big deal. Just look at, guys like Stone Cold and Edge and Daniel Bryan and more recently Big E. And, he's apparently going to be out for a significant amount of time after the surgery, after he has it. And he's not only going to miss WrestleMania this year, which of course takes place this upcoming weekend, it's likely that he's going to miss next year's WrestleMania as well, because the timetable for a return from a surgery like this is at least a year to 18 months. So yeah, he's going to be on the shelf for a while. And there's also talks that based on how it goes, based on, obviously his age and, other factors that go into it, he may never come back to wrestling again. He may decide, that this may very well be the end of at least his full-time wrestling career, or it may be the end of his career as we know it. So, some rather obviously saddening news, some disheartening, disappointing news to hear for somebody like myself who has been a long time Kevin Owens, Kevin Steen fan. I certainly wish him the best. Hope he recovers, hope he gets well, hope he has a surgery, hope all goes well, and you want to see, somebody who has done, somebody who has been as good as Kevin Owens has been in his, in the time I've been watching him. You certainly don't want to see him go out in that way, So I'll wish him all the best. I'm pretty sure I posted about this before, but here with this video, I kind of wanted to talk in retrospect, thinking about the possibility of Kevin Owens' career being over with this surgery, with this, his apparent injury, and so on and so forth. And I just kind of been reflecting on his career as a whole, specifically his time in WWE. After everything that he did in Ring of Honor, and it's just like, to me, on the surface, just looking back at the last 10, 15 years, specifically, like I said, I'm specifically looking at his time in WWE, not counting NXT necessarily, because he was a pretty solid guy in NXT. I'm talking about when he came up to the main roster. And I just personally feel like, and again, this is just me talking. This is just my opinion. You don't have to agree with it. You don't have to necessarily, feel the same way. But this is just how I feel thinking about it. To me personally, I just think that Kevin Owens' career was honestly wasted in WWE. Now, let me just kind of break down what I mean by that, why I feel that way. I mean, if you think about Kevin Owens, if you think about his time in WWE, like, he was, for anybody who paid attention to him, one of the best wrestlers, one of the better talents that they had. Like I just said, like I just specified, one of the best all-around guys that I've ever watched wrestle, at least in the last decade or so. He can pretty much do it all. He can pretty much do anything that is asked of him. He could go out and cut a promo. He could go out and wrestle a match. He could go out and put up a solid 10, 15, 20-minute match with just about anybody. He's top tier in the ring. He's top tier on the mic. He can be a face. He can be a heel. He can do a lot of different things. He can do whatever is asked of him. Like I said, he's multifaceted and multi-talented in that way. And it's very rare that you see a wrestler like that. It's very rare that you see a talent like a Kevin Owens come along. And it's just like, for a guy who is as talented as he is, he really wasn't pushed up, or, he wasn't really put, treated on the level that his talent suggested that he should have been treated. I personally just think that he was underappreciated. I personally think he was undervalued. And, I made a post about this last week, right before the weekend. I made a post about this on Blue Sky right after I heard about this whole injury of him, and he's going to be out for a significant amount of time with the surgery. I talked about this on Blue Sky, and I made reference of this on my post on Blue Sky. And there's some people who commented, and they said various things. I went back and forth with certain people, and they would say stuff like, oh, well, he actually had a decent career. He had a solid career in WWE. He was a world champion. He was a universal champion. Oh, he did everything, that there was to do. He was a Grand Slam champion. Oh, he won the tag titles with Sami Zayn at WrestleMania in the main event a year or two ago. Oh, he main evented with Stone Cold. There's nothing more that he could have done, blah, blah, blah. He's had a solid career, but, and, people say this stuff like this, and I just look at it like, I kind of look at it a little differently. And, if you look at just how Kevin Owens was booked in his time in the main roster, and if you really, and I mean really, really pay attention to how he was booked or where he was placed, his placement on the show, like in terms of, what matches he wrestled, who he wrestled against, and just like things like that, you'll kind of notice the pattern that WWE did not value Kevin Owens that greatly. WWE did not consider Kevin Owens as a top tier guy. They did not consider him as a main event act who they could rely on regularly. I mean, you look at how Kevin Owens was booked in his time on the main roster of WWE and compare it to, say, Roman Reigns, how Roman Reigns was booked the last 10 years. You could take how Kevin Owens was booked and compare it to somebody like Seth Rollins. You could take Kevin Owens and compare how he was booked to like guys like Randy Orton, or even more recently, Cody Rhodes. And you'll see the very obvious glaring difference between how Kevin Owens was booked as compared to how those other guys were booked. He was just basically, in WWE's case, a plug-in talent, an upper mid-card talent who they could plug in to whatever program they wanted him to be in. And he could do, again, anything that is asked of him because he's that good. But it was obvious to me, just based on the way he was booked, that he was not a top-tier guy. WWE did not consider him a top-tier guy. They did not consider him a consistent main event guy. If you need any more convincing than that, if you need any further evidence of that, just look at how many times he's been world champion. He won a world title one time in the entirety of his almost 10 years of being on the main roster. He was a multiple time NXT champion. He was I believe 2 times. He won the NXT title 2 times. So he was considered a top guy there. But when he came up to that main roster, it was a completely different story. They put the Universal title on him in the first, year, 2 years that he came up. But since then, since he won the Universal title, how many world titles has this guy held? 0. 0. And think about that Universal title. Think about the title that he did win. He won the Universal title. Okay? Think about that. The Universal title. Which is, if you think about it, especially back then, this was during Vince McMahon's WWE, the Universal title was treated as a second-tier title. It was not the main title. It was not their main title. It was not the title that they put on the guys that they really wanted to push and really wanted to showcase. It was the Universal title. It was the title that they put on other guys who they wanted to stick a world title on so they could say, oh yeah, this guy held the world title or was a world champion. Okay, it was a second-tier title. It was a second-place title. It was never the top title. Never. Maybe when they put it on Roman Reigns, they started to treat it like a top-tier title. But before that, every single person who has been Universal Champion has done nothing since they won it. And Kevin Owens is no exception. And it's and since, his Universal title run, this guy has bounced around in the mid-card. When he won the United States title, he won the Intercontinental title, he won the tag titles. Yes, he was a Grand Slam champion. But if you think about it, in this day and age, that doesn't really mean anything. Because you know why? Because WWE does not value their mid-card titles. They don't value the United States title. They don't value the Intercontinental title, not like they did back in the Attitude Era, not like they did back in the 90s. The Intercontinental title back then was the stepping stone championship that they put on guys who they wanted to, down the line, become a main event guy. That's how they booked the Intercontinental title back then. And to a degree, that's how they booked the United States title back in the Ruthless Aggression era on SmackDown. Now, it's just a title they throw on somebody. That's it. They don't value the mid-card titles. They didn't value the mid-card titles back then. And honestly, they don't really value them now. As for the tag team titles, those are just as worthless. Because there is no real tag team division in WWE, especially not back then. Back in the mid-2010s, 2015, 2016, and, on, go up till, even now, like I said, even now. They don't value those titles. So what good is a Grand Slam champion? If you want to even call it an achievement, if you want to even call it an accomplishment, it doesn't really mean anything. And Kevin Owens was never a true world champion. He was a Universal champion one time, and that's it. He was never the WWE champion. He was never the Undisputed champion. Never. And that tells you all you need to know. Oh my God, he main evented WrestleMania. Oh my God, he won the tag titles with Sami Zayn and da-da-da. Oh my God, he main evented with Stone Cold. Let me just tell you something about those things, guys. First off, in regards to him winning the titles of Sami Zayn, the tag titles of Sami Zayn at that WrestleMania, whatever it was, last year, the year before, it's good. It's fine. Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens have been up and down the roads. They were a pairing even back during the Ring of Honor days, when Sami Zayn was known as El Generico. And then, they're one of the few only guys in terms of wrestlers that are actual legit best friends in real life that have, been pretty much together for the entirety of their careers, both in Ring of Honor and later in NXT and then in WWE on the main roster. So, that's all good and fine. But in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really mean anything, And their quote main event was on night one. of WrestleMania. This is when the WrestleMania started going 2 nights. And it's like, to me, I've said this before, the night one main event of WrestleMania is not the true main event. It is not a main event. I do not consider that a main event. It is just the final match on night one of WrestleMania. That's all it is. It's just a gimme main event. It's a filler. It's like 1B, basically. It's like a second tier main event. It's not a real main event. It's not the match that they value as a main event on the card. It is just a gimme. It is just a filler. Okay? The match that they held, the final match on the 2 nights, the main event of night 2, the final match of night 2, that is the true main event. Night 1 is just night 1 is just, hey, we need a match to close out night 1. Let's just throw whatever. That's basically what they do. And especially the last couple years, you've seen that's basically what they do. They do not value the night 1 main event. They do not view it as an actual main event. So people sitting here saying, oh, he was in the main event of WrestleMania. He was not. He was in the final match of night 1. That's it. And he won the tag titles with Sami Zayn. That's fine and dandy. Doesn't mean anything, though. Because the tag titles are incredibly, at that point, undervalued. And basically, it doesn't mean anything that they won them. Because I'm pretty sure that they lost them, not too long after. So it didn't really mean anything. Now, people saying, oh, well, he main evented with Stone Cold. First off, once again, it was a night 1 main event, quote unquote. So I don't consider it a main event. Number 2, it was not even a match or a scheduled match. It was a Kevin Owens show segment with Stone Cold that happened to close out the show. And then eventually it devolved into an impromptu match, which wasn't even really a match. It was more of a fight that they had for about 10, 11, 12 minutes. And guess what happened at the end of it? Kevin Owens lost. That's right. Kevin Owens lost a match or a fight to a 50-plus-year-old man who at that point had not wrestled in almost 20 years. His last match was WrestleMania 19, for crying out loud. A guy who had been out for 19 years, who had retired early because of problems with his neck, who had come out of retirement to have this Kevin appear on this WrestleMania, to have this Kevin Owens show segment, which devolved into a match, and then he basically went over on a guy on a at that point a former Universal Champion. That just goes to show you right there how much they value Kevin Owens. You had him lose to somebody like that, an impromptu match against a 50-plus-year-old man who had been out for 19 years with a neck injury, who literally came out of retirement to have one fight or one match, and you had Kevin Owens take the loss to somebody like that. And you consider that an achievement? You consider that an accomplishment? Are you fucking kidding me, folks? I get it. Kevin Owens, he that's his hero, or Kevin Owens really looks up to Stone Cold, or he considers him like an idol, or whatever the case may be, and that's fine and dandy. But on the outside, when you look at it objectively, from my point of view, personally, I think they made Kevin Owens look like a punk at the end of that whole thing. You made him look weak. You made him look weak as fuck. Surely you have to see it. It doesn't matter if it's Stone Cold or anybody. It's Stone Cold. It's a well past this prime, 19 years out of retirement Stone Cold. It's not the same guy. This is not the same Stone Cold from the fucking Attitude Era, folks. It's not the same guy. It's not the same wrestler. Not even close. So, I don't really consider that. If anything, I consider that WWE showing just how much they value, or rather undervalue, Kevin Owens. I just don't like it, folks. It makes him look weak. It makes him look cheap. You throw him out there, have this segment, then have a random impromptu fight/match, and he loses to a man who was in retirement for 20 years with a bad neck. Not a good look to me. Not a good look. And again, this was on night 1 of WrestleMania. It was not the main event. You need to get that in through your heads. It was not a main event. That, combined with all the other things that they had this guy do, when he was Universal Champion, guess what? You want to know how he lost that title? They had him wrestle fucking 50-plus-year-old Goldberg and had him lose in what? 13 seconds? 21 seconds? However, I forget what the time was. But he basically got squashed by a 50-plus-year-old man 50-plus-year-old Goldberg lost the Universal title. This was right before WrestleMania. I think it was at Fastlane 2018. I want to say. I think it was 2018 because I'm pretty sure that's when Kevin Owens was champion. 2017, 20. I can't remember the exact year. I'm pretty sure it was 2018. But he lost to fucking 50-plus-year-old Goldberg in not even a minute. You can't even give him a minute against fucking Goldberg. You had to basically get squashed. And he loses the Universal title. Never held it since. Never held it since. They put him in matches for world titles and stuff. And he constantly put other guys over. And that's basically what he is. That's basically what his role is. That's what his role was in WWE. He was a guy who put over other guys. He was a guy who WWE plugged in whatever fucking program they want to put him in to elevate other guys. They used him as a stepping stone to elevate and push other guys who they wanted to push at the time. That's basically all he amounted to in that company. And that's all he will ever amount to in that company, sadly. Sadly. They used him to elevate fucking Roman Reigns. They used him to elevate fucking Seth Rollins. They used him to elevate Brock Lesnar. Goldberg, like I mentioned before. John Cena. Guys like that. That's all that they used Kevin Owens for. He was never the top guy. He was never a main event talent. They never viewed him as a main event guy. They never viewed him as a main event player, folks. You see, like, if you actually bother to pay attention, you see it plain as day. WWE was never going to value Kevin Owens as a top guy who they trusted in a main event slot. Look at what they're doing with Cody Rhodes now. Do you see Kevin Owens being in that spot? Of course not. Not with fucking Vince McMahon. The way Vince McMahon looks at his fucking talents, because, Kevin Owens is, he's fat, he's got a little bit of a stomach and all that kind of shit. Because he doesn't fit the mold of a top talent. And even now with Triple H there, Triple H books him the exact same way that fucking Vince did. So really, what has changed? What is different? All he is a super, basically a utility player, a super utility talent who gets plugged in and is used as a stepping stone to elevate and push other guys on the card. Higher up on the card. That's all he is. Sadly, that's all he is. Basically, you can throw Bray Wyatt in that same conversation. You can put Bray Wyatt in that same conversation. He was never viewed as a main event top tier guy. And may he rest in peace, by the way. May Bray Wyatt rest in peace. Guys like that. Two guys right there, Kevin Owens and Bray Wyatt, completely underutilized and undervalued in this company. It's a fucking crying shame, too, because these are two of the most talented athletes, two of the most talented wrestlers that have ever come out, that have ever been a part of that company in the last 10, 15 years. Bar none. Bar none. And look what they're reduced to. Fucking jobbing to the guys, to WWE's main event guys, to the Roman Reigns of the world, to the Cody Rhodes of the world, to the fucking Seth Rollins of the world, to the Lesnars and the Goldbergs of the fucking world, to the John Cenas of the world. Kevin Owens was never going to be used in a capacity any more than what he ended up being used for in this company. And now that there's a possibility that he may never wrestle again, it is a fucking goddamn crying shame that you look back at the entirety of his career there, and you see that he never amounted to anything more than a glorified mid-card guy. A glorified upper mid-card guy. That's all they saw Kevin Owens as. And it's a goddamn fucking crying shame that somebody that talented, somebody that good, could only amount to being just another guy, to elevate the guy, quote unquote. They never viewed him as a main event player. Never. They never viewed him as a marquee player, to main event WrestleMania, to fucking lead the show, to be the face of the show, to be the face of the company. They never viewed him as that. And they likely never will. And the sad part about it is that people like the ones that I was talking about, the ones who I went back and forth with basically on social media, they see it as, oh, well, he had a satisfactory career. I don't see it as a satisfactory career. Oh my God, what more could he have done? I don't know. Fucking won some more world titles? Roman Reigns was the champion for fucking 3 years. Why can't Kevin Owens have a reign like that? You got guys who are 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-time fucking world champions. You got John Cena fucking wrestling for 17 at WrestleMania next weekend. Why can't Kevin Owens have more title reigns? Huh? You want to talk about what he's done? Oh my God, all these quote-unquote good things he's done. Oh, he's had such a successful career. What more could he have done? How about actually being booked like a fucking top guy? How about that? Actually fucking being a main event of WrestleMania. Not a night one throwaway fucking main event, but the actual fucking main event. There's plenty this guy could have fucking done. There's plenty. But WWE doesn't see him in that capacity. And it's a fucking shame. And they never will. That's why I wanted so bad for him to leave and go to AEW. Because at least then he will be fucking valued. You know Tony Khan will value him. He's friends with the Young Bucks. He's got the fucking... He's obviously, got friends there. He obviously will get it, have a good word in. Because, again, he's friends with fucking, the EVPs. And all that. And Tony Khan will value him. Tony Khan would use him in that capacity. He would never be viewed in that capacity in fucking WWE. Look at the way Jon Moxley is booked right now. WWE didn't even value him. Look at how he's being booked right now in AEW. He's a top tier player. No doubt in my mind, Tony Khan would do the exact same thing with Kevin Owens if he ever went there. It looks like it may never happen now. Because he's having this next... He's got this injury. He's going to have surgery. And he may never wrestle again. We saw what happened with Big E. But although the difference is Big E got hurt. That was more of a freak accident. Big E actually legitimately broke his neck. And he's never going to wrestle again likely. And it's a shame, And, your heart goes out to a guy like Big E. With Kevin Owens... there's a chance, again, it's not a guarantee that he'll never wrestle, but the timetable for him returning is pretty lengthy. And it's just a thing of, you just look back and think, what could have been? What could have been? He could have been so much more than he has been. And I know if you go out and you ask him, if you ask Kevin Owens about his time there, of course he's going to do the humble, company guy thing, and he's going to say, "Oh yeah, I was grateful for my time there, and I thank WWE for everything they've done for me," and yada yada yada. Of course he's going to say that. Of course he's going to say that. Of course that's going to be his viewpoint, his stance. Of course he's going to say that because he's fucking under contract for them. He's getting paid by them. Of course he's going to fucking say that. He's not going to say anything detrimental to the company while he's still working there. So, while I get it, he may be, quote, satisfied with his spot as a fan of his, somebody who's been a long-time fan of his, who sees the talent that he has, and has for a long time, since his days in Ring of Honor, as somebody who has been a long-standing Kevin Owens, Kevin Steen fan. I look at it, in my point of view, I think he was undervalued and underappreciated, and his career was wasted in WWE, being basically a stepping stone for other guys to be top tier big names. That's how I view it. That's honestly how I view it. And in the off chance that his career's over, I personally think we're all going to look back and think what could have been, what should have been a great, truly fruitful career for a guy like Kevin Owens. This guy should have main evented WrestleMania, should have been a world champion many times over, should have had great, excellent, solid programs in that fucking company. But it never happened. Because you know why? Because they don't see it in him. They don't value him like that. That's what it is, folks. You don't want to hear it. If you disagree, it is what it is. You're entitled to your opinion. But if you look at it from my point of view, that's basically what it is. That's what I see. And I personally believe his career was wasted in WWE. And it's honestly a shame. It's honestly disappointing for a guy as talented as that. There's nothing you can do, though. Nothing you can do. All you can do is look to the future and hope for the best. That's all you can do. That's all you can do. That's all I can say. And I hope Kevin Owens, during his time off, now that he's having the surgery, he really kind of reflects and he takes a step back and he sees the writing on the wall. He sees his own value and he asks himself, am I really where I want to be? Is this really all that I have to achieve? I hope he asks himself that question. And I hope these quote unquote fans out here ask themselves that question. This guy should be a main event. This guy should be a WrestleMania main event top bill guy. Top tier guy. Multiple time world champion. WWE champion, not fucking Universal champion. And it's a shame that his career has been stunted, basically. And his career, to me, has ultimately been wasted in WWE by people who don't value him. Simple as that. So that's really all I gotta say for that. I don't really have anything more to add. So that's pretty much gonna do it for this video. We're 31 minutes in. So I figure I'd go ahead and close this out. I've said all I need to say here. Thank you for watching this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have, be sure to hit that like button. Leave a comment. Give me your thoughts on anything I touched on here. And be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Push it all spark and get. That being said, it's pretty much going to do it, man. So thanks for watching once again. Till next time, Wrestling Otaku, I'm out for now. Peace.